Hi and welcome to fastidchef.com. Today I'm going to make a wonderful tomato galette. And it is so good. It was so delicious that I really felt that I was in heaven. Not that I know what it's like, but anyway, it was very, very delicious. It looks complicated, but it's not. You might wonder what is the difference between a pie and a galette. Galette sounds nicer in my point of view, you know. It sounds more complicated, but it's really not, because galette, you can form it as you like it. You can have it round, you can shape it as a rectangle, and so on. With a pie, you need a special mold for that. You don't have to do that with galette. Secondly, you pre-bake the pie shell, but you don't need to do that with the galette. So there are many wonderful things with the galette. So to make a galette is not that complicated, really. These tomatoes, I recommend certain tomatoes to be used. Please do visit my blog to know all the tips and the hints and tricks. And I really hope that you will like this recipe, so please consider subscribing. And don't forget to give your thumbs up as well. So let's get started and see how easy it is to make this wonderful tomato galette. Well, here you can see what is needed, and as usual, it's mise en place, which means that you measure and prepare everything before you get started. And you will also find the list of ingredients below this video. But for all the tips and tricks, I recommend you to visit my blog. You start by cubing some unsalted butter and refrigerate it. Then in a blender, you pour over the flour and you add the salt. And then you pulse it 3 to 4 seconds only, just to mix it. Then you add all the butter. And that's when you need to pulse it 10 times 1 second each. It's going to sound something like this. Then you can check now, it's very grainy, and that's what it should look like. Transfer it to a larger bowl, and you can see the butter. And add the ice cold water in 3 batches, and just mix it around. It's not going to be a dough right now, but then you transfer it to your working bench and flour it slightly, pour it onto the on your baking area, and just push it together so the dough comes together. Do not knead it, because then gluten will build, and that's not what we want. Put a plastic wrap on your working area and put the dough on it. Fold it over and just push it slightly with your hands so to form a round shape or a rectangular shape or whatever you need. And make sure that you cover it very nicely for the dough not to dry. Refrigerate it for 1 hour. Now, wash and cut the tomatoes into even slices. Then put it on a colander on top of a bowl and put 1 teaspoon of salt and mix it well. Then you chop the white part of some spring onions and also chop the basil, fresh basil, and put it aside. It's time now for your dough to come out from the fridge. Flour your bench and roll out the dough, turning it around once now and then so that you can keep the round shape if you are using a round shape. And flour if needed, so for the dough not to get stuck on your working area. Continue in the same way until you have a round shape that is at least 12 inches in diameter or 30 centimeters. Then you find a suitable dish, put a parchment paper on top of that, and you transfer your dough from your working area to that dish and put it in the refrigerator again to keep it cold. Meanwhile, you are doing other stuff. Now, after 30 minutes, the tomatoes have a lot of liquid. You add 2 tablespoons of olive oil and the spring onions and put it aside. Now, in a separate bowl, put the cheese, The cream cheese, the egg yolk, the mustard, the garlic, the cayenne, salt and pepper, and also the thyme. And last but not the least, the chopped basil that you have prepared. And then you mix it very well and set it aside. Now we are going to assemble all this. Transfer the parchment paper with the dough on to a cookie sheet. Then add the cheese mixture with the goat cheese and so on, leaving 3 centimeters from the edges. And then you put the grated cheese on top of that, the tomatoes that are big, you put around, and the smaller ones in the middle. But make sure that do not take the liquid that is gathering in there with you on this galette. You see, it's a lot of liquid. Then you fold the dough over the filling, making pleats once now and then when needed. You put the parmesan cheese on top and use the egg wash to brush the dough all around this galette before you put it in the oven. That is 375 Fahrenheit or convection 329. And after about an hour, you have a wonderful galette that is so delicious. And I can tell you, I felt like I was in heaven. As we say in Iran, Nusha Jan, or enjoy.